Hi, I'm Rachel Gray, and I make videos all about cooking. And today I'm going to show you how to make the best cinnamon rolls. There's nothing better than waking up in the morning to that amazing aroma of cinnamon in the air. Everybody loves a good cinnamon roll. I got this recipe from my good friend Janice, and it's the best cinnamon roll recipe out there. The dough is sweet and tender with the cinnamon sugar filling and that sweet frosting on the top. So let's go over the ingredients that you're going to need to make the dough. You'll need 1 cup of milk, 1/3 of a cup of butter, 1/3 of a cup of sugar, 1 egg, 1/3 of a cup of warm water, 1/2 teaspoon of sugar, 1 package of dry yeast, that's 2 1/4 teaspoons, 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt, and about 4 cups of flour. For the filling, we need 1/4 of a cup of butter, 1/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 1/4 of a cup of white sugar, and some cinnamon. For the frosting, we need 3 tablespoons of butter, 3 cups of powdered sugar, 1/2 of a teaspoon of vanilla or almond extract, and then 3 tablespoons of milk. The first thing we need to do is scald the milk. So I'm going to turn on the heat and I'm going to put my 1 cup of milk in. Once that's scalding, we're going to add 1/3 of a cup of butter. It's 5 1/3 tablespoons. And I'm just going to stir that until it's melted. Once my butter's all melted, I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of sugar and 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt. Once my sugar and my salt have dissolved, I'm just going to put this aside to cool. While I'm waiting for my milk mixture to cool, I'm going to take 1/3 of a cup of warm water, 105 to 110 degrees, and then I'm going to add my packet of yeast. And then I'm going to feed my yeast mixture with just 1/2 teaspoon of sugar. And then using a whisk, I'm just going to stir that together. I know you're thinking, hey, you did it in your mixer, why aren't you using your paddle attachment? Because there's just not enough liquid at the bottom. So I'm just going to mix it together really quickly with a whisk, and then I'm going to leave it to proof for about 10 minutes. So it's been about 10 minutes, and if you can see, my yeast is all bubbly and active. So to my yeast, I'm going to add my egg and my cooled milk mixture, and then I'm going to add 2 cups of my flour. And I'm making this in my KitchenAid, and I'm using the paddle attachment at first. So I'm just going to mix that all together. And as you can see, it's forming a nice batter. I'm going to go ahead and scrape the sides down. And then I'm going to add another cup of flour. And now it's starting to form a dough. Just going to scrape it off my paddle attachment and shade from my paddle attachment to my dough hook. And then I'm going to add about 1/2 of this last cup of flour. And I'm going to check and see where I am. It's not quite forming the mass that I want it to. So I'm going to go ahead and add the last 1/2 cup of flour. Now the amount of flour that I need, it really depends on a lot of things. Your flour, how big your egg is, all of that stuff. But what I'm looking for, you can adjust accordingly. I'm looking for a mass. I want it to be soft, but not too sticky. And maybe just like a little bit, can you see on the bottom? A little bit still stuck on the bottom. I'm just gonna take a little bit of butter and I'm gonna spread it over the sides of my bowl. And then I'm just gonna pull it off of the hook. Take the hook off. And then I'm just gonna scrape underneath and make sure that this is buttered. There we go. And we'll just kind of roll it through the bowl so that it's all buttered. I want to put the dome side up. Then I'm just going to take the bowl off of my KitchenAid and I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap, and then I'll put it in the refrigerator to rise overnight. If you're not making it overnight and you want to make them right now, then just go ahead and let this raise until it's doubled. Okay, so it's the next morning and my dough has risen. And if you just raised your dough on the counter and you didn't raise it overnight, just go ahead and punch it down. I'm not gonna be able to punch my dough down because it's really cold and stiff right now, but you'll notice it is a little puffy. I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit of flour on my clean countertop, and then I'm just gonna dig my dough out. Now I'm just gonna shape it a little bit while it's cold. It'll make it easier to roll out. And I'm going to kind of shape it with my hands so that I can have more of a square. And then I'm going to use my rolling pin to roll it out. And I'm going to kind of flare out those corners so I kind of keep that square shape. And once I have my dough rolled out, I want it to be about 12 inches across and 24 inches long. I'm going to take 1/4 cup of butter, which is 1/2 stick, and I left this butter out last night, so it's nice and soft. And then I'm just going to butter my dough. Now I want to get right to the edges except for this far edge right here on the right. And the reason I don't want to go all the way to the edge there is so that it sticks together when I'm rolling it. And now for the sugars. I've got 1/4 cup of sugar here, and I want to just sprinkle it across the dough as lightly and evenly as possible. I like the mixture of the sugars. It makes it so it's not quite so sweet. I find just regular brown sugar straight up just to be a little much. Now for my brown sugar, I'm just gonna sprinkle it over the top as well. And then I'm just going to rub it with my hands. That way I get it nice and even. Because the white sugar's already down, it just kind of rolls. And again, we're just gonna steer clear of this edge right here, but go all the way to the edges on the other sides. And once our sugars are down, I'm just going to take the cinnamon and just sprinkle it lightly over the top. It's all ready to go, and then I'm going to roll it. So I'm going to roll left to right. I'm just going to fold a little piece over, and then just roll from the bottom. And then once I get to the end, I'm going to kind of put it down on that seam and then kind of squish it. Then I'm going to pop in the ends with my hand. Just kind of make it so that they're flat. And now I'm going to cut it. Here is my secret to cutting it. String. You could use dental floss if you wanted to, but just make sure it's not the mint kind. But string works really great. And you might want to have it be a color other than white. That way you can see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run this down, and I'm going to eyeball what half is. And then I take it and I divide that in half. Each one of those is going to be in half. And then I'm going to take this one and cut it into thirds. And I'm just going to keep repeating that until I've cut all of them. And so they're all the same. Slide it to where I want it to go. Cross over and then pull. Once I have them all cut, I'm going to put them in the pan that I'm going to bake them in, and then I'm going to let them ride. My family loves it when I put these in a 9x13 pan, and then they get all squished together, and then there's no edges. They have the softer sides where they butt together, kind of like at Cinnabon. And if you're using a 9x13 pan, don't forget to spray it with some Pam or grease it with some butter before you put the rolls in. If you want them to be individual, put them on a silk pat lined baking sheet. So I'm just going to take them and just put them flat down, and I'm just going to go ahead and squish them just a little bit. And when you get to the ends, I just put the rolled side down, and then kind of give them a little squish. So I've got them all on the pan now, and I'm just going to go ahead and cover them with a clean cloth, and then I'm just going to put them aside to raise for 45 minutes to an hour. In the meantime, I'm going to make my frosting and preheat my oven to 350 degrees. Making the frosting is really super easy. I've got 3 cups of powdered sugar in this bowl, and then I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of butter. Now, I have 4 tablespoons left over from what I used for the cinnamon rolls, and you know, a little bit of more butter isn't bad, so I'm just gonna put it all in. So you're gonna need either a half a teaspoon of vanilla or almond extract. I really like the almond, so today I'm going to use the almond. And then 3 tablespoons of milk. And I'm just going to beat that together. And the frosting is done. It's fairly thick, and if you wanted to thin it, you certainly could. I like it thick so that way I can put it on while the cinnamon rolls are hot and it just kind of melts into it. And I'm just going to cover this and set it aside until I'm ready for it. Okay, it's been 45 minutes. You can see that they've risen a little bit. They're nice and puffy and ready to go into the oven. Occasionally you'll get one that has like a little tail that comes out. What I can do with that is I'll gently pull it and then just tuck it under, and then it doesn't get away. And I'll bake these in a 350 degree oven for 12 to 15 minutes until they're golden brown. So I've just taken my cinnamon rolls out of the oven. As you can see, they're golden brown. I just wanted to show you, this is the cinnamon roll that I tucked right here, and this is the one that I didn't. So you can see it does make a little bit of difference if you just tuck that end in. And I'm gonna let my cinnamon rolls cool for just a few minutes, and then I'm gonna frost them. I like to frost them while they're still warm. And there they are, overnight cinnamon rolls. After you've had these, you're not gonna want Cinnabon anymore. This is the best recipe out there. And now you can make them at home. They're super easy, especially if you do it the night before, then all you have to do is just assemble them in the morning. You can find this recipe and over 200 other recipes on my blog, cookingwithrachel101.com. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Subscribing is free. And if you wanna be notified every time I post a new video, hit the bell.